Okay, so here we are with EU. I just, the morning after I went down to Consim World Expo to look at it. I mean, speak on it more, but I'm a little fatigued. It's exciting. I just got to talk to a lot of people. And kind of missing that wishing I had signed up for the whole week. Okay. Anyway, so I'm looking at the election to the Holy Roman Empire, and that gets resolved in the event phase, and really nobody's interested in it. In particular, nobody's got a victory condition based on it. I don't think anybody's willing to spend money on it, and what that means is all the neutral electors, which I think is all of them at this point, are going to vote for the Habsburgs. It would be a tough sell. I mean, it would cost. You need to spend $10 to get a 1 in 10 chance to move someone away. The best you can get is a +5, which means you have a 50% chance of moving someone away if you don't have electors on your track. And I don't think anyone does, except, no, I thought they might have Bohemia there already. Yeah. So, you'd have to kind of shotgun the whole set and come out lucky, and it's $50 an elector. 7, 6, I don't know. That's going to be a big hunk of money to just challenge. I just don't see it being worth it. So the Habsburgs are going to get it for free, and their advantages are pretty limited. He's the emperor, and he's got this additional advantage of being able to involve the Habsburgs in wars in which Spain is involved at no loss of stability. That may change later in the game, but that's kind of bad news for France, because the empire, well, the Austrian Habsburgs, can come in and get themselves involved in those Italian wars, as they historically did. All right. On to the actual diplomacy phase. And there we're going to open up. France is declaring war on Spain. Spain is going to bring the Habsburgs in their automatic facility. And let's see what else. And remember, the Habsburgs are now the emperor, so they have some slight advantages there. We might actually see imperial troops involved in this. I'm not sure. To look at those rules. Turkey. So France has to spend 1 because they have a casus belli. Turkey does not. And I looked over the religious rules. I thought they get 1 against the Shiites kind of automatically for their status. If this is correct the way I read it, Turkey pays a full 2 and a 5 victory points, which is kind of painful. I left the Mamluks over here accidentally. That's where they go now. Had they been there already, then Venice could intervene in the war. There's some discussion between Spain and England. Hey, you want to be part of this war? England's like, no, I don't really. I'm not interested in my claims on France. I'm willing to work on my economy, and you go do your thing, and maybe this war will get big enough and last long enough and hurt France enough that I can hold Calais. Of course, if they joined in, maybe they could hold Calais as well. But and nobody else is making any big declaration of war actions. So I'll write these guys down and look up some of the rules again. Try to make sure that the Turks don't have that disadvantage, don't have to pay that much, because it seems wrong. Yeah, the piece of information I wanted was in the religious rules, and Turkey has a free casus belli, or a permanent casus belli, actually. I don't think it's a free one, against Persia. They do not, and Persia's all a Shiite nation like the Mamluks are. They do not specify anything about the Mamluks. Maybe it was an omission, but this has always been the case in the game. So they drop down 2, and they're going to war. I've got to set up pieces for all the countries involved in this. That's going to be 3 different countries in this case. And I guess that's about it. Okay, so our situation is the Habsburg. I've got the Mamluks set up over here. The Habsburgs want to involve their vassals in the war. Now, Spain can't involve anyone other than the Habsburgs in directly, but the Habsburgs have 2 minor vassals. They have Württemberg and Milan. Milan would have originally been part of their territory. In order to involve them, you have to make a roll over here. Yes, it takes a while to capture these things. Find them in the rolls. And you have to get an 8 or higher. Now, diplomatic control bonus, that's going to be the vassal space, which is +3. It would also include if there were modifiers to these, but there is not. Okay, so we're at +3. Common border. No common borders with France in either case. Closest enemy is 6 or more. Well, that may be the case for Württemberg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. And Milan. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we don't have a distance penalty there. So basically we're at +3. We'll check Württemberg, and they're in, and Milan's in as well. That gives me a couple extra units to place on the board. For minor diplomacy, the only thing that was handled was the papacy. Venice saw this as an opportunity. They're interested in there being no sole defender of the Catholic faith, as is England, actually. But Venice had a lot of money sitting around. Oh, no, they didn't. Well, never mind all that. Yeah, I thought they had. I was looking at Turkey's money. Okay, so actually nobody is throwing anything in at all. I had rolled it off and it had no effect. Anyway, nobody played any diplomatic events or actions on the minors, which means we move forward to the income and administrative, which is mainly me doing bookkeeping. I'm not going to talk a lot about that. But there is one thing that I'm going to go to at the end of that. The countries that are at war, in particular the Habsburgs, because Württemberg and Milan are just vassals and they don't get die rolls, and the Mamluks are going to get the minor countries at war are going to get a chance to roll and get some additional reinforcement troops. Those will be conscript units, but they can fill out their army that way. I think, while I handled the inflation check, I didn't really bother with checking these resources that came through. Now, I think my number on the slaves is wrong. I'm looking, there's 5 exploited automatically. 3 more were exploited by the Portuguese last turn, so I think that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm not absolutely positive. But anyhow, these prices do fluctuate based on a supply and demand type mechanism. In this case, well, products of the Orient, I have to make checks in both directions. If I roll less than a 7 or greater than a 6, well, in this case, because the double arrows are going this way, I only have to worry about the one direction. So it's greater than a 6, and I do not succeed, so the price doesn't increase. Likewise with spices, I have to roll greater than a 5, and that does not change. And here with slaves, I have to grow greater than a 5. These would raise the price by 2 boxes, and nothing actually moved. So for this turn's income, the prices are set at the same, the prices are set up here at the same value at which they were before. So the only one that really matters right now is slaves, which is producing $2 per. Now, jumping back to the 5, which is my baseline, I'm producing more slaves now than I was before. So I'm going to have to mark that on Portugal's sheet. They now have 5 that they're producing. Okay, so 5 and 5. We'll shoot this up. Not that. Let's shoot this up to 10. And, you know, now it's beginning to hit a place where the price could go down. Actually, it was before, so I have to actually check that. So now also on less than a 5, the price is depressed. Now, these are kind of weird. Greater than a 5, less than a 7. I think it's only one die roll, and I think I rolled less than a 5. So that actually does depress the marker by a box. It doesn't affect the price, it's only 2. Alright. Well, the war in Germany seems to have caused something kind of strange. I came in and found this crawling out of it. I don't know. Okay, working my way through the administrative phase. I noticed something I forgot, which was to place my missionaries when I sailed out with them. You can grab one and take it out on a mission with you. I should have left one behind here in Spain. I cheated and put him there. He failed and got eaten by natives, which was pretty reasonable, actually. The Portuguese had succeeded before I noticed that, so I'm not going to put one there yet. Those can be converted to missions, which are more powerful. I'm not sure I really want to do that over in that province right now, but there's advantages and disadvantages either way. The Spanish, though, kind of have to do it, so they can't create a colony without sending a mission there, and it just causes a certain, it would have caused a problem there. I also had to roll up the mercenaries because we've got wars going on, and both Spain and France bought one. So this, whoa, is in the wrong place. This is the French mercenary. Oh no, that's a Spanish mercenary. I guess the Spanish bought themselves 2 mercenaries, and I've got to be careful because this guy's got to go here to command the larger force, and this guy's got to go here. Actually, that's wrong too. He's got to go here. I can switch these two because all my Spaniards are commanding 1 Spanish army. It means I'm not going to have a leader for any force I send north, though, which is what I was kind of counting on, but I've screwed up enough. I don't know. Spain is running low on money, and we're afraid they wouldn't have enough to run the campaign in addition to, you know, doing the colonization and some other things like a tech roll, a big tech roll that didn't get them quite to the Renaissance. They're going to be fighting, you know, with knights in armor and pikemen only. Not that it's too far from that in the Renaissance, but they don't get a fire step. That's going to be very painful. But so what they did is they taxed the Netherlands. Remember, that's a penalty once the Netherlands can start making rolls for their revolt in the 3rd period, I believe. So, although they can happen before that, actually. So, the Spaniards have to be kind of careful. But if they just keep doing this and say, I want my $50, I want my $50 each turn, that'll happen. You know what? I didn't give them their $50 for having the papacy in place. So maybe, I think they're okay not doing that taxation. I think they can get away. They're going to be kind of low on cash, but at $20 a round, I think they can do what they want to do. We'll see. I also forgot to bring Savoy into the war, and I made a roll and checked, and yes, they're in it. They're not fully in the war. They're in a military alliance position, which means they are only willing to go 1 space away from Savoy itself. But 1 space away is sufficient in terms of Milan. The only problem here is, of course, they've got to send the French army in with it, so that may not work out as well as, you know, one would hope. The French have kind of a problem. They're going to have to build another army and maybe reposition their commands. They want to make the attacks on Artois, but the Spanish can't really defend that. So it's kind of a weird situation. They've got troops that they could make veterans up there. they may choose not to pay for them as veterans, keep them as conscripts. Alright, onward. Interesting note in the game. Ojeda, who has a fairly low rank in the order of things, would be, I think, still allowed to work. I think I could still send him out without a command, because he can't command units in Europe. But it's kind of a weird situation, because the way the rules are kind of stated, he has to command the next largest unit, and he has to, be where he can command it. So without these mercenary leaders, it is kind of in doubt whether or not he would have to kind of be attached to them in some form, even if he wasn't able to do anything with them. But they outrank him, so no matter what, I can send him out with or without troops, but I'm not building more troops for him. He's going to go out with Columbus and go discover stuff. Alright. Got myself forgetting another factor in the game. You have a maximum number of forces you can purchase each turn. And I had to go back to Spain. Now that isn't an absolute maximum. It indicates maximums in each type of thing. But because they built 2 armies, what they have to do is they have to pay twice as much for anything between that maximum and twice as many units, and 3 times as much above that. It doesn't continue from there. That's your absolute maximum, but it's just kind of a factor that I forgot about. So they did end up taking the $50 from the Netherlands, in addition to whatever they got, the $50 from the papacy. I was looking at France and saying, whoa, I can't build that many armies. Wait a minute. Speaking of France, they got, for their mercenary, they got stuck with a conquistador out of the pool. There's 1 conquistador and 1 explorer. And usually when you're drawing for mercenaries, that's absolutely not what you want. You're paying for the chance to get a military leader. I've always kind of wanted to make, if it's a mercenary, if the mercenary draw is a conquistador or an explorer, announce there's one of them available, because it just feels like different people want different things. A lot of the countries might be willing to go for a conquistador explorer, but it would kind of destabilize things, because when they come up, they might allow some of the countries that otherwise don't have the ability to expand onto the other map. And so I kind of like it. It gives you these shots. Hey, if you really want to spend $10 for a mercenary draw, and maybe you'll get something that's useful to you, but you're not in the military, you're not fighting a war, so you don't really need it. For France, it's really tempting them to use Gonaville to try to slip by the Spaniards and do some exploration. The English have Cabot here, whom they're definitely going to use, just because, hey, what else am I going to do, I got a leader, I can explore, I can discover some stuff. He's not fantastic, but he's not bad at all. Alright. Keeping up with the paperwork, though. This is, it takes a couple of hours for me to run through the whole pile. Okay, so I made it through most of the, I think hopefully all the administrative factors. Not quite, I haven't done the Netherlands, and their trade fleets that are supposed to come down, but I can do that in a moment. But I did want to point out something that happens at the same time. As well as kind of what happened here. The French bumped their technology up, paying for it. The Spanish didn't make it, which means we're going to be seeing the Renaissance against the medieval, which is a nice combination for the French. There's no question there. So the fact that the Spanish have more armies on the board isn't necessarily that much to their advantage, because the French armies are in better shape. Obviously the Turks are above the Mamluks still. That hasn't changed anything. This hasn't changed anything. One thing we're going to see, though, is the Latins, because of this little L here, advance on their own. So now the highest navy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above. So the Latin navy tech has to bump up to that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That probably should have happened earlier, maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't make much difference. That highest Latin army is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're there. Now, I check everyone else within that group. So all the Latins are within 5 of the... that's an Islamic counter. I moved forward. Crap. I think it's over here. Alright. The Latin Navy is actually here, and it's fine. Okay, but now the Latins move forward on their own. And this doesn't drag anything quite yet. And the Latin army also pushes forward. Except those are the Islams. Anyway. You have this kind of automatic progression, and they will drag other countries with them. Although early in the game, it's fairly easy for the countries to come up with enough money to make the technological investments. Later on, I found countries like Russia are so starving for cash, and it's really tough for them to keep up, and maybe some of the others as well. Or they're devoted to one technology and not the other, so they kind of fall behind on one of them. And that's all okay. Now, the thing I really wanted to show, though, is the only country in this war that has this ability right now. All the other countries, Savoy, the vassal states of the Habsburgs, they just have whatever troops they have, because they're not really in the war. But the Habsburgs are fully in this war. So they get a die roll. Now we have to look up their modifiers, which I unfortunately have over here. This is going to be a long one. Okay. And they have a modifier somewhere. Somewhere they do. Okay, maybe they do not. I thought they did. They have a +2. Okay. So, that's going to be the modifier to their reinforcement table. And at this point, you got to find that table. It's over here. They get to choose one of 3 attitudes: offensive, defensive, or naval. Defensive will tend to give you fortifications. Naval gives you more ships, obviously. Offensive, though, is what they're going to go for because they want a mobile army. They're not really worried about the Habsburg territories under attack. They're going into, although Milan, it would be nice to get a fort. But they're going forward here, and they're going to roll on the offensive. They get a +2 to the die roll, and there may be other modifiers somewhere. I don't see them from the size of their country. So they get an 11. They're going to get 6 detachments and 2 major campaigns. The 6 detachments works out to be a full army and an army minus, essentially. And I'll just place those on the board. Maybe come back, maybe not, I don't know. Because the Habsburgs can become a major power, I made a card for them. I don't think anybody's ever actually played it except as the minor. Anyway, they've got their armies down. They couldn't pile them all in Tyrol. They already had a major army, but they also had a detachment there. That meant they couldn't put their full army there. They put the half army there, filled it up with the detachment forces, put the other army over here, the full army. They don't have a leader for that. Such is, you can get a leader off the reinforcements table. Anyway, where are we moving now? It looks like we're ready to start the military phase. Yay, us. And that I will definitely cover in some detail because we haven't seen fighting happen at all yet. And later on I'll probably just kind of gloss over, there was a big battle here, big battle here. And the videos will start rolling in slower because the game doesn't really speed up all that much when I'm playing in solitaire. It'll get a little better. I don't have to look up as many things. Alright, up it goes.